wmnf.org/news. On today's show, we're going to talk about sea level rise. We'll hear from a University of Miami geologist, and my guest will be an environmental law professor. But first, we're going to talk about today's historic agreement about the TPP. Here's what the AP says about the TPP. The United States and 11 other Pacific Rim countries have agreed to an ambitious and controversial trade pact that cuts trade barriers, sets labor and environmental standards, and protects the intellectual property of multinational corporations. The agreement on the Trans-Pacific Partnership was reached today after marathon negotiating sessions in Atlanta through the weekend. Congress has to review the agreement and will have to give it an up or down vote. No amendments are allowed. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe welcomed the basic agreement as a far-sighted policy for all participating countries that share the values and try to build a free and fair economic zone. The TPP is designed to encourage trade between the United States, Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, and Vietnam. But there's organized opposition to the TPP from environmental groups and from labor activists. My first guest is a field director for the Central Labor Council, Aaron Carmelo. Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's begin with why you oppose this trade agreement. And the fact sheet from the White House calls it the largest expansion of fully enforceable labor rights in history, but you oppose it.
Basically we've seen these types of agreements before, and they have, continuously failed to hold up to the promises that our governments told our workers here.
What are some things about past agreements that affect labor? For example, maybe people are most familiar with the one between Canada and Mexico that happened in the 1990s.
That was NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. That one, along with CAFTA, which is the Central American one, one of the big talking points of that was, it's supposed to stop illegal immigration coming into this country. And, that is obviously still an issue if you watch any of the Republican debates. We're well into over 20 years of one of those and approaching many decades of others. And that hasn't come to fruition. The Colombia Free Trade Agreement was supposed to, end the punishment of union organizers and officials in that country, which, still happens, unfortunately. And most recently, the Korean Free Trade Agreement was supposed to create 70,000 jobs in the United States, which also has not happened in those industries that they've promised.
Here's what AFL-CIO President Richard Trumka wrote in a statement. We are disappointed that our negotiators rushed to conclude the TPP in Atlanta, given all the concerns that have been raised by American stakeholders and members of Congress. He goes on, maybe we can read more from that later, but that's one of the opinions of Richard Trumka, the AFL-CIO president. One of the criticisms of the TPP is that it was being negotiated in secret, and that and except for things that were leaked, like say through WikiLeaks, we didn't really know what was in this agreement. How is an agreement negotiated in secret? Why is that something that you oppose?
Well, it's obvious. The workers here need to know what our officials are doing that will affect our lives moving forward. Like I said, we know how bad some of these agreements have been in the past, and it's not fair to our workers right now who are going in and clocking in, 9 hours a day, 10 hours a day in some cases, and they don't know if their jobs are going to be protected in the future, or if they're going to be shipped overseas.
We'd like to hear what you think about the TPP. The number to call in is 813-239-9663. You can email us at dj@wmnf.org or text us at 813-433-0885, and I'll read your text on the air. My guest is Aaron Carmelo, Field Director for the Central Labor Council. My name is Sean Canan. I'm the host of Midpoint Monday. And the White House sent out a fact sheet this morning that said why they support the TPP. Of course, they're one of the biggest supporters of it, and it says the TPP includes the strongest worker protections of any trade agreement in history. The TPP puts American workers first by establishing the highest labor standards, requiring all countries to meet core enforceable labor standards as stated in the International Labor Organization's Declaration on Fundamental Principles and Rights to Work. Well, that sure sounds like it's labor friendly.
And the issue with these that we see is do these standards, they set a floor or do they set a ceiling? When you put something out like that, is that going to be the base that countries work off of to make things better than that? Or is that going to be where they start, and find ways to work downwards from that, which is what we've seen in other cases.
So it's where, right now the United States might have a higher labor standard than some of these other countries. Looking at the list of countries, something like maybe Chile or Peru, you would think that the United States would have higher labor standards in general than some of those other countries, and you're worried that our standards might drop down to that level.
Yeah, to stay in competition with those countries, someone here that works in a good manufacturing job making $20 an hour, in the future that job is either going to be eliminated or they're only going to be making $12 to $15 an hour.
And it makes it easier for those jobs to move to the other countries where these agreements are. It seems like it makes it more, the borders are very fluid when it comes to trade and corporations moving and jobs moving.
Absolutely. Look at NAFTA and the car industry here. If you go across the border in Mexico at multiple places along the border, there are car assembly plants set up right there where I read an I wish I could remember the exact number, but I think it's an average car made in America crosses the border into Mexico 11 times during its assembly, because they can just ship it over, do some quick maintenance on it, put it together, then bring it back, and then they do the big parts here in the United States. So instead of those auto workers that were making a good salary, good pension, and everything, we're shipping those jobs across the border.
And that kind of just underscores how these efficiencies, so-called, I'm going to use that word in quotes for just a second. I mean, that if a car manufacturer finds it more efficient, in quotes, to ship this car 11 times rather than just have it assembled in one place, it seems like by the definition of efficiency you're losing so much, but they must be gaining in their terms, gaining so much in paying less for the labor. That makes sense.
It just shows the discrepancy in what workers make here in other countries, and now we're looking to expand that to how many more countries in the Pacific, 11, I believe.
Well, we have some people on the phone, so I'm going to go to the phones right now, but I want to remind you that our guest is the Field Director for the Central Labor Council, Aaron Carmella, and my name is Sean Canan. You're listening to 88.5 FM, WMNF Tampa. I'm the host of Midpoint Monday. It's 12:16 in the afternoon, and we're going to go to Chris in Tampa. Hi, Chris.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm one of the delegates for the Tampa Green Party, and I've really been interested in this TPP trade deal. In a nutshell, from what I understand, it's the final nail in the coffin for democracy, public health, and safety. It's a global corporate coup, basically, and I'm not exaggerating. So, if you guys want to come to our meeting a week from Wednesday over at Ybor Daily Market, you're all welcome. That's one of the top.
What time is the meeting, Chris?
7 o'clock at 9 p.m. on the 14th, I believe it is.
All right, Chris, while I have you on the line, we're hearing about the labor angle of the TPP, but from the Green Party perspective, I'm guessing that you might be able to tell us what your opinion is about some of the environmental concerns about these trade pacts?
If a corporation decides well, let's say a city decides, we don't like your company polluting our rivers, they could take it to an offshore tribunal, which is totally biased, and sue the United States for making them lose money because we're worried about our environment and our health. That's just a small example. They did it. Philip Morris, Marlboro Company, did it to, I believe, what was it, Uruguay? That's like a health concern. But if you go to, I believe, Popular Resistance or .org or Alliance for Democracy, I believe it is, or just to our website. I just posted it today on our Facebook and Twitter page. There's a link to a website, and if you scroll down to the bottom of the website, there's a PDF link for a total fact sheet where you can bring your state, your city, your national representatives, simple fact sheets on why TTP is a bad deal. It's a no-brainer, and it's all about the big businesses are pushing it. They don't care about you and me.
Chris, thanks for that information. All right, I appreciate your call, and we'll go back to the phones in just a minute, but let me bring our guest, Aaron Carmella, back into this. Aaron, Chris said something about that that corporations, if they feel that their profits could be hurt by something that's happening, by a law in a country, let's say it's a law that's passed by the United States, they can sue because of under these trade agreements, they can sue for future profits that they may have lost if there's an environmental law, for example, that they feel is going to get in the way of their profits.
Yeah, that's a big fear of this is investors in other countries can kind of hold that over our heads when we're doing these types of deals that we're pretty much governing out of fear of what folks with money in other countries might be doing to us, and it's it's not the way that our government should act or react to these sorts of deals.
The number to call is 813-239-9663. You can also email your question or comment to dj@wmnf.org, or like the person I'm about to read, you can text us at 813-433-0885. And we have this SMS, this message from the 727 area code. It's not signed, but this person says, has there ever been a trade agreement that was actually good for the working class? And then this person goes on to say, rhetorical question really, but let's treat it like it's not a rhetorical question. Has there been a trade agreement that's good for the working class?
As I said earlier, the ones that we really focus on, NAFTA, the Central American Free Trade Agreement, Colombia and Korea, have not worked out. And a lot of them have had a lot of time to work out, and they continue to show every day with our declining manufacturing jobs and the jobs that really built this country. We're still declining today, and it's really unfortunate. So I would say that there really isn't any positives to point to in these agreements. Earlier,
when our caller, Chris from the Green Party, the Tampa Green Party, called in, he was talking about environmental problems, and yet the White House sent out this fact sheet today that says that the TPP includes the strongest environmental protections of any trade agreement in history. It has puts the environmental protections at the core of the agreement, makes those obligations fully enforceable through the same type of dispute settlement as other obligations, and that it requires all members to combat wildlife trafficking, illegal logging, and illegal fishing, as well as prohibit some of the most harmful fishery subsidies and promote sustainable fisheries management practices. So Aaron, I know you're here to talk about the labor aspects of it, but before we move on to, do you have anything else to say about the environmental protections?
Yeah, absolutely. And just like we were talking about with labor standards, again, is this a floor or a ceiling? By standing up to the ideals, or comparing it to the facts of previous trade agreements, that's not really a very strong foot to stand on. And just because you make something a law doesn't mean it's where it should be. So our countries that are now above those standards right now are going to fall down to what this agreement says, or are we going to try to have everyone lift up above that? From previous trade agreements, we see that the former is true. Everyone kind of falls down to that bottom level.
I'm hearing a lot of opposition to the TPP, today, but also in the years that it's been being discussed. Yet President Obama and a lot of powerful people in Washington are backing this, and they're putting a lot of political capital behind something that, in a lot of circles, is really unpopular. Why do you think that is?
Your guess is as good as mine on that. For an administration that's really done a lot for working families here in this country, pushing forward some of the very important things to move this country in the right direction. It's really confusing to us why this is happening.
Well, maybe I'll put it a different way. Who benefits from something like this?
As that caller said, it really seems like only international investors, countries that have standards below what the United States have right now. Large international companies, multinational companies that want to hopefully move some of their manufacturing or other goods production to offshore places, or be able to use offshore places to cheapen their cost of making goods or services.
If you'd like to join the conversation, the number is 813-433, here's the text number, 813-433-0885. You can email us at dj@wmnf.org, or if you'd like to be on the air, you can give us a call at 813-239-9663. My guest is Aaron Carmela. He's a field director for the Central Labor Council, and my name is Sean Canan. I'm the host of Midpoint Monday on 88.5 FM, WMNF Tampa. George in Lakeland, you're on the air.
The reason this is happening is because the American consumer, including myself, we want low prices when we buy things. I'll give you an example. There's a company in Detroit. They make leather products. I think it's Shinola.com, something like that. And I went to their website. You know how much a leather belt costs? You buy it from them?
I wouldn't. Men's leather belt. Let's go with $20.
No. How about $350? How about, okay, let's try a leather wallet. Not a fancy one, not with one with pockets or anything. Just a regular bifold. How much?
Well, again, at discount stores, you can find something like that probably in the $20 range, but I'm going to guess based on...
This website, $195.
So your point is that
Complain about these agreements, but we want cheap stuff, and we're not willing to pay the money that's required to maintain a high standard of living. Have these discussions, we need to include ourselves in it, not blame the corporations, not blame the politicians, but blame ourselves, the consumers. We're not going to pay $195 for a belt made in the USA. We're not going to do it.
well, you're bringing up a really interesting point. I mean, I think that's going to make a lot of people think. What do you think, Aaron? Are people willing to pay for things that have strong environmental standards, high labor quality? You're in the labor business. I mean, I think that you probably encounter people that only buy union-made products and they're willing to pay a little extra for it. What's that dynamic like?
Yeah, you know, we're willing to do that to a degree. Obviously, I don't think many people are going to pay $190 for a wallet. But that also shows the problem of us having moved this manufacturing out of the country. It's kind of what came first, chicken or the egg? Did prices drop because consumers didn't want to buy American products, or because they moved manufacturing out of the country and made American products unaffordable to working families? Well, Walmart did start out. Yeah, but Walmart did start out as a made in America. When it was initially formed, they only sold products made in America, and as they moved on, and new ownership took over, new management, then they started driving the prices down by doing what we're talking about that the TPP and NAFTA did. So it's not necessarily the consumer. We got priced out of these American products because the jobs moved overseas.
All right, thank you so much for that call. I appreciate that. I think we get the point, and I think that both of you have made very good points about that. It's expensive, but maybe it would be less expensive if there weren't driving down the costs from overseas. Let's move on, because we're going to go to another topic in about 5 or 10 minutes, and so I want to make sure I get as many people that want to talk as possible. Jennifer in Spring Hill, what's on your mind?
Okay, well, I'm also a Green Party member, and I wanted to say that the Green Party has not been behind this since day one. This has been negotiated in secret, and I'm a union member. I have a union job, and there used to be like 27% of the jobs in this country were union jobs in the 70s, and now it's down to, I guess your guests could tell me for sure, but I think it's 7%. And, I mean, there's a reason they negotiate this in secret, and we've got to stop, depending on the Democrat and Republican parties to do things for us and start paying attention to alternative parties that are, the whole platform is different, and stop thinking that it's a wasted vote, because 4 different candidates could have won in 2012. The Libertarian, the Green, and the Democrat Republican all had enough electoral potential, just we aren't hearing it. So we've got to look for our sources and stand up for what we want. And I think union work is better quality. We only do union products
do you want to respond?
when we sell merchandise from our Green Party. So anyway, I just really would.
Jennifer, thanks so much for that call and for that perspective. I want to go to another text message that we got. This person is in the 727 area code asking, is there anything citizens can do to resolve this huge injustice to hardworking people, such as divesting from the 401k companies and investing in homegrown co-ops? For all things American, thanks, I really enjoy the show. This is from the 727 area code. So Aaron, what can people do? First of all, this has to be approved by Congress, and there's some opposition in Congress. But what about things that people can do outside of politics?
First off, you do need to contact your congressmen and the senators from the state of Florida encourage them to vote no on this. We do have one last chance to stop this. If it does make it to the president's desk, every indication is that he will sign it into law, as his support has been for it the whole time. Other than that, there are many groups that you can find that encourage buying American. There are lists you can find for stuff like that. There's a famous one that goes around every year where you can buy USA made and Union made candy for Halloween to give out. Just little things like that can actually start hopefully pushing us back in the right direction. Instead of going to your local store and buying the cheapest bag of candy that you can find, you can actually buy one that is made here. You might pay 30-40 cents more, $1 more a bag, but it's worth it in the long run if everyone did that sort of thing.
Well, let me read a couple of more text messages, and while I'm looking at these, I'm also seeing I guess you'd call it a spam mail from the Bernie Sanders campaign, but it's about this topic. So it says Bernie Sanders for president is asking, sign my petition to join our fight against the disastrous Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal. So I guess now you know the position of one of the presidential candidates in the Democratic Party. We have a text message from the 813 area code. What amazes me most is that we the people sit on the sidelines, the non-voting Americans, and let an elected group of people that works for us do many of these things. They can be fired. It's our constitutional right to remove our governing electorate and replace them with people who work in our interests. And that's from Joe out in the 813 area code. We also have an email from David in, I'm not sure where. It says, your guest group needs to come up with a catchy idea to get people's attention. Allow me to introduce the TPP, the type of home we'll be forced to live in with after we lose our homes when our jobs are moved overseas. So there's a little bit of humor from David. And another text message from the 813 area code says, the problem is wages are low and people are forced to buy things at low prices. Wage stagnation also caused the rise of Walmart. So that's something we've talked about before. Let's take one more phone call before we move on, and let's go to, how about Bill in Bradenton? Bill, you're on the air.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Very good. Good afternoon. How are you?
Thanks. Somebody, I believe you had made a comment about some of the trade agreements that have been made actually benefited the other countries as opposed to the United States. And some of the agreements I deal in import and export quite a bit. And some of these trade agreements are dead even as soon as they're passed because of the tariffs and the FET taxes.
So I'm just going to let you say the last thing and then say goodbye, if that's all right.
So, for example, one of the products that we sell, we literally lost a whole market due to the fact that the federal excise tax could not be credited, and they would not allow us to export any longer this product and exclude the FET, which gives other countries, actually, including China, other countries an advantage in price on that particular product.
Yeah, Aaron?
Yeah, there are definitely issues with this, and one of the ongoing ones that we've had with Japan is, free trade is supposed to be free travel of goods and ideas between these countries, and they're trying to continue tariffs on, auto manufacturing and parts coming into their country and agriculture. So, they're trying to put themselves up on a pedestal as part of this agreement. It's just one of those things that with this all in secret, we're really not sure what the ramifications are going to be, and it's unfortunate for our workers here. I'm afraid, and many people are, that we're just going to continue into this same spiral of declining jobs and manufacturing in this country.
Well,
American manufacturers scooted their price increases right in behind the tariff because they know the price of these were going to be, parity was going to be close to be achieved. And so what they did is they just increased their prices a little bit as well. So, I mean, this is there's lots of undercurrents in the export trade and agreement business that we're unaware of. And like you said, people are making decisions that we don't even elect, but have so much influence over those contracts and agreements that we know nothing about.
Bill, thanks so much for that call. And Aaron, would you have something to respond?
Yeah, no, you hit it on the head. There are so many undercurrents to every decision made. Like you said, it's so easy now to move a job to Mexico because of NAFTA when an issue like that arises, and we're not upholding the standards that were promised in NAFTA. So it's easy for Goodyear to move a job to Mexico, take that away from someone that was making a good living here because of a tariff that was set in China, and now we're looking to increase these types of agreements with what some economists consider as 40% of the global economy. So it's a scary prospect to look at, and I keep going back to it, especially that none of us have been able to see the agreement as it's written.
All right, Bill, thank you so much for that call, and I want to thank you for joining us on Midpoint today, Aaron.
Thank you for your time.
I appreciate it a lot. Thanks, Aaron. Carmela is Field Director for the Central Labor Council. We're going to turn now to a different topic. It's, in my opinion, just as important as the TPP, and I hope that you agree and that you call in. Here's the number to call. 813-433-0885 is the text number. The telephone number is 813-239-9663. Sea level rise.